Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
I have one. My dad and stepmother own a house in rural Maine. It's been in my grandmother's family for decades. And before it belonged to my grandmother's family, it was a funeral home. My aunts and uncles, my sisters, my dad, my stepmother, many people in my family have had weird experiences in this house, but I think mine might be the coolest. And I had heard all of their stories, and I remember that weekend that this happened to me saying internally to myself, how come I seem to be the only one who hasn't had a weird experience in this house? I want to experience the ghost. And actually, I think there are probably multiple ghosts. So this happened in broad daylight in the middle of a big family reunion that my dad was hosting at the house. And in order for me to tell the story, I need to tell you a little bit about the layout of the house. I believe the style of the house is called a New Englander. It has a big front enclosed porch, and the porch leads into a main hallway. Directly in front of you in the main hallway is the kitchen. Directly to your left is the living room. If you turn left, you walk into the living room, and then you turn right, directly ahead of you is the dining room. If you walk into the dining room and you turn right, there's the kitchen. So the whole first floor, or part of the first floor anyway, is this square that kind of surrounds a central staircase. And then off the kitchen towards the back of the house are a couple other rooms that lead out into the backyard. The other important detail is there's a big picture window in between the living room and the front porch. That'll be important in a minute. Okay, so I am standing in the doorway between the porch and the front hallway, and I'm talking to one of my aunts who is sitting on the porch. I had just come into the house from the back with two of my cousins. My cousins, myself, and my aunt were the only people in the house. As I'm talking with my aunt, I can hear somebody walking up behind me in the hallway. And when I say hear, I mean I can hear the floorboards creaking, and I can even feel the floorboards creaking. And I sense somebody walking up behind me and then walking into the living room. And when they walk into the living room, I can see sort of a weird something going by that picture window. So I know that somebody has walked by me into the living room. And I poke my head around the corner to the living room to see who it was, but there was nobody there. So I walk into the living room to see who it was, and there's still nobody there. So I walk into the dining room. And when I'm in the dining room, I can see into the kitchen, and only my two cousins who I walked into the house with are there. And I said to them, hey, did somebody just like walk by and come into the kitchen? And they kind of looked at me funny and said, no. You guys, it was the ghost. I was so excited. I had finally had an experience. Remember, there are only two ways in the house. One is through the front where I was standing, and one is through the back where my cousins and I came in. And nobody else had come through. It was the coolest thing ever.
Tell me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
So I literally could make a whole series on ghost stories that have happened to me or like I've experienced. But I'll start off with the creepiest one, and that was in my childhood home. So I was like 12 or 13. It was the night before the first day of school. Little backstory: my house that I was raised in was built in the 1950s. It was a church of some sort before my stepdad bought it in the 90s. Another little backstory, which I think kind of set things off more, was my friend and I 2 weeks prior to me experiencing this creepy shit that happened, we made a Ouija board. So 2 weeks later, right, the night before school started, I'm watching Mean Girls in my living room on the floor, and in this house there's like a really long hallway, like when you would see in a scary movie. Like, the light didn't work in the hallway at the time. It was just creepy. It was very narrow, very dark. And from my mom's room was right across from the bathroom. And so this long, dark shadow figure was walking back and forth from the bathroom to my mom's room. And I looked, I thought it was my mom. I said, Mom? Mom? And no answer. So I go back to watching the movie. I'm like, maybe I should go to bed soon because I feel like my mom's gonna get mad at me. Because it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know what I was doing watching Mean Girls at 3 a.m. But I see it again. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna go look to see if my mom's door is open. It's fucking locked. It's locked. So I go back. I'm sitting down. And I turn my head. And it's in the doorway of the fucking hallway. When I tell you that chills went down my spine, I was like, my room is right in front of that doorway leading to the hallway. My room's right there. And in my room, in my closet, there's a crawl space. And I hated being in my room because I was terrified of the crawl space. So I grabbed my dog. I'm in my room. I clicked off the light on like the ceiling fan instead of the switch because I was sleeping with the fan on. I lived in Arizona. We had swamp cooler. It was hot, so I always slept with my fan on. And so I click the light and I look over and my dog is standing like in the corner looking up and all the hair on his back is standing up and he's like growling, barking, starts going off crazy. And I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna wake my mom. And she's gonna yell at me for being up so late. So I crack my door, I get him to calm down. Not even 2 seconds later, I'm like laying with my back facing the wall, so I'm not facing the door. My door flew open and the light clicked on. And when I told you, I said, Mom, and nobody was there, my heart dropped. I didn't even bother to turn it off. My mom in the morning said, why was your light on while you were sleeping? And I told her the whole story. She said, maybe you had a bad dream. I kid you not, I come home from school that day and this woman is saging the whole house. I said, oh, did you have a bad dream too? She said, nope, I believe you because I saw what you saw. And I said, more things happened in that house. That's creepy. But